Good evening. My name is Coach Stallman.
My name's Coach Espinoza.
We're going to give a rundown of the league, what's been going on, the big trade busts that have happened, and give you kind of an insight of what's going around.
Indeed, a big blockbuster trade by Coach Lampman and Coach Gonzalez. We got Dalvin Cook and Julio Jones going to Coach Gonzalez's team for Odell Beckham Jr.
Now, Coach Espinoza, how is this going to affect the entire league in itself, not just those guys' teams?
Well, it looks to me to be about an even trade, but one thing that we have to keep a spotlight on is Odell Beckham Jr. is going back to Coach Lampman's team, and that is a equation for chaos right there. That's one player. It's Superman's kryptonite right there, going on to Aaron Lampman's team, and that's something that the whole league should look
into, right?
Look into,
it's a dangerous trade, I think. That team is really sparked by momentum, and to bring back the team leader, Coach Lampman, you could tell whenever he was interviewed by the media regarding the trade bust and how the draft, Coach Gonzalez stole his prized possession in the contract and took Odell Beckham onto his team. They were really missing a leader, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
They were really missing a leader on that organization. Julio wasn't cutting it out. He won the championship with them 2 years ago, but now last year he was absent from that team. They haven't built a passion that Odell really brought to that organization.
See, I was with Coach Lampman when we were doing our draft, and when Coach Gonzalez picked up Odell, Aaron Lampman was looking through to see who he can trade for Odell Beckham Jr. When Coach Gonzalez picked up Odell, Coach Lampman was pissed. He had to see what he can do to get him on his team.
Now, let's talk about this guy, Dalvin Cook. Okay, who is this guy? Who does he even play for?
I think he's on the Raiders, I believe.
He's on the Vikings. He signed.
Okay.
He could be potentially their starting running back. Coach Lampman put some cards on the table to get this Odell Beckham back. Some argue that Odell Beckham and Julio Jones are the same value.
Yeah, I would have made the trade if he would just give him Julio. I think that's
Straight
an
up.
even trade. But Dalvin Cook, that's just a little extra.
Bread and butter.
Yep.
He averages 10 points a game in fantasy football. He's a good consistency to bring to Coach Gonzalez's
That's another risk player.
organization.
It's another risk player. So that adds on Tony's team. So that's good for him.
So Odell's coming back home, playing 3 straight years, won a championship, and went to a championship game in 2 back-to-back years, going on 3 years with Coach Lampman and the 69 organization. We can expect some danger going there.
Yeah, indeed.
Next trade on the list, the Grinders cut it out. With Coach Gonzalez again, it looks like Coach Gonzalez is making trades left and right from his team, only making improvements thus far.
Coach Gonzalez is really, really talking to the other teams right now.
But Coach, can you tell me about Doug Baldwin? Why would Coach Elke and the organization Grinders trade Greg Olsen, one of the top-rated tight ends in the league, for Doug Baldwin?
What was it? Doug Baldwin?
It was Doug Baldwin. We have to look at his stats, and Coach Elke is definitely a stats kind of guy. So he's looking at stats here. Greg Olsen, he averaged 1,073 yards receiving. Doug Baldwin, 1,128 yards receiving. Now look at the touchdown breakdown. You got 7 touchdowns, Doug Baldwin. You got 3 for the whole year for Greg Olsen. So obviously, Coach Elke is looking at the amount of touchdowns Doug Baldwin put, looking at his receiving core, noticing it's weak. He has no receivers, and he saw Doug Baldwin on the chain.
Looks to be Doug Baldwin's going to Coach Gonzalez on his bench. That's a trade. I can't really say much to that trade. There are 2 players. I'm sure Greg Olsen was a good starter, but I don't see Doug Baldwin starting anywhere. So, I guess it's a win for Ethan right there.
I have to disagree, Coach. He's without a tight end now. Who's he going to go for? There's no tight ends on the free agency
market. He can just pick anybody up on the free agency. Tight ends, they don't get a lot of points. Greg Olsen is a consistent tight end.
He is a consistent tight end.
He
lost a consistent tight end. Correct.
He did, but tight ends really, you don't rely on points for tight ends. Most tight ends, well, I'm sure there's 2 or 3 that will get around 10 points a game, but most of the other tight ends, they'll probably get 3 or 4. So tight ends is not really a player you focus on.
And Coach Lampman obviously has struggled in the past with tight ends. I think if you ask him,
he's won championships.
He's won championships, but I think if you argue with him, he would say that tight ends make or break some of the games. He had Jason Witten last year. He had Vance McDonald last year. He had several tight ends that could not step up to the plate, and for that, another reason why he lost 6 games in a row. If I do correct myself, if I missed the 6-game mark, if it was more, I can't remember, but
I feel like
he definitely
more
went
than
on a
tight
losing
ends.
streak.
Kickers. I feel like tight ends have the same level of intensity as kickers. Kickers produce the same amount of points as tight ends. So,
Who do you think has the strongest kicker right now in fantasy football?
I believe my team does. Justin
And that
Tucker.
would be Justin Tucker?
Justin Tucker.
Last year it was who? Steven Gronkowski.
Well, it was a tie between. I think Gostkowski got the edge on Justin Tucker, but Justin Tucker did really well last year, which is why I drafted him again this year.
They do make or break. Every point matters whenever you're playing fantasy football. So moving on to that, what other news has transpired around the league? Those are the main blockbuster events that's trade. But Coach, we understand your guys, your team. Let's look at your team for example.
Yes, let's
They,
look at my team.
they're not. You look at them and you don't really give them a second glance. You go, okay, I guess they could be okay, but they don't really stand out. But those have been your teams in the past, and you've had a lot of success. You've always made the playoffs. So can you tell us a little bit about why you don't have any standout players and what that really means in fantasy football?
Well, I hear this every year. I hear it from all the guys. They always tell me my team doesn't look that scary. And I actually intend for my team not to look scary at first. I know it's a bunch of ball players, though. And later on in the season, it goes from a team that's not looking that scary to a team that is, oh my God, what the fuck happened to this team? And I do disagree with you when you say I don't have standout players. I do have standout players. That's the Antonio Brown. That's the Jay Ajayis, the Dak Prescotts. These are standout players in my opinion. And I feel like these hold the edge against other teams.
As far as Antonio Brown, you mentioned him last year. He came off of one of his worst seasons, I would say, arguably, on the Stoutman. What do you think is making the difference now that he's on the Feelers organization? How is the season different?
It's just a lot of trust in the guy. He feels a lot better playing under my team, and he's kind of used to it. So I feel he's going to do a lot better this year. He's still relying on an injured Roethlisberger. We'll see how that goes. Pittsburgh has Landry Jones and Lou Dobbs coming in. And if Roethlisberger goes out, we got to go rely on those two. And hopefully they pass it to Antonio a lot more because in the recent past, they don't like to throw it to him.
Would you say that with Martellus, I can't pronounce his name.
Martavis Bryant.
Excuse me. Martavis Bryant, would you say with him on the sideline, suspended right now, does that open up the gates for Antonio Brown, or how long is his suspension out for?
Well, it's I haven't heard a word. He's also on my team too as well, but I haven't heard a word from the commissioner. How long they're going to suspend him? I'm looking at probably the end of this week, next week. They're probably going to lift his suspension. He can't practice with us. We're waiting on him to get done with that. But it will take some points away from Brown, which is also why I got him because I got if Martavis shows up to play, I can run Martavis Bryant in my flex position and get both points from Brown and Martavis Bryant. It's just a good offense between the Steelers. They're gonna throw it to Brown. They're gonna throw it to Martavis. Their offense is gonna be rolling. They're gonna be running the ball with Le'Veon Bell as well. I hope they don't because he's not on my team anymore. But the Steelers have a powerful offense which reflects off of my Feelers team.
Coach, we've talked a lot about what's going on in the league right now, what your team is doing in your organization, but we've really left out one coach in particular, one that's probably going to have one of the most successful years, probably even meet his expectations of not finishing last. It's Coach Hinkie and his team. You've seen how successful of a draft that he had. Now, does that necessarily mean he's going to have a great season? Probably not, right? You had Coach Stoutman last year. I personally
it's too soon to count your chickens, as Coach Olkey has said many times before. His team does look scary, though. I will say that. He's got Matt Ryan, who was one of the MVP candidates last year. Le'Veon Bell, who's pretty damn good. Devontae Freeman, who didn't do as good as the year before. Last year, he didn't do as good as the year before, but he still produced some numbers. You got Travis Kelce, one of the best tight ends. And then his bench got Terrell Pryor, Matt Bryant. Or actually, those are their starters. My bad. Those are still the starter. Terrell Bryant and Matt Bryant's a starting kicker. He's got Minnesota's defense. It's a scary looking team, but we'll see how it lines up.
He's finished last every single year. Am I right?
Yes.
He's finished last every single year this year. He had a great draft. I mean, he didn't really have an excuse. He was first pick, right?
Yes.
But it all comes down to the user. I mean, you look at me last year. I had one of the best drafts in the entire list of
I
6
remember
players.
looking at your Antonio Brown and AJ Green. I'm like, man.
Combination, right?
Yeah.
I only got one of them this year. So I don't really get that triple threat, quadruple threat of wide receiver lineup. But our team is really focused on capitalizing on players that you wouldn't think are probably best. We're gonna try to do something different, pick up players, drop players, and be more open to trading them. So that's something different that we're going to open up on our team to improve our fantasy league.
It's one thing in this league is if you have a good draft, you also got to be really good in the free agency. So if Richie has a good draft and does really shitty in the free agency, that's going to reflect back on his team, and that may make or break him from making the playoffs. You know, if you have a shitty draft and good free agency, that may get you in the playoffs. You can have a good draft, but you got to have a good free agency, picking up the waiver wires for your team to be really good.
We're definitely going to be able to bring out players, coaches, and have a lot more interviews. But knowing week 1's coming up, we got rivalry week coming up.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's going to be big. That's going to be huge. That's going to be the marking point on who's going to have the best draft and who's not. Who's going to be the best coach and who's not. That really determines where you're going to be left off when the season starts.
I tell you what, these are the teams that are always barking at each other. Yeah, my team, Coach Lampman's team, we always bark at each other to see who has more dominance. And history shows that Coach Lampman has more dominance against my team. And coming week 1, I want to prove it. I want to prove that we are the new dogs, the top dogs. I got Coach Stallman and Ethan Olkey, they always argue. They fight with each other like a bunch of little girls. And Coach Hinkie and Coach Gonzalez, the two Mexican named teams.
The Nasty Showdown.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, all 3 of them are Nasty Showdowns, and there's really no headlines game because all 3 of them are definitely headlines game whenever you go into the gates and you're going against an opponent that you cannot possibly stand. Coach Elkey, I don't think he's going to have that great of a success
that's
this
what
year.
I wanted to ask you. Who do you think will be the last place this year?
Honestly, I have to say, by judging just by the draft, but I'm just going to go on a limb and say, not even about the draft, I think Coach Elkey's going to probably have the worst year of his entire life, and I mean that. I mean that as a coach. I've suffered before. I didn't make the playoffs, but last year it was a close race. You had me, Coach Elkey, yourself, Coach Gonzalez, all trying to meet that line to get into the playoffs. Coach Lampman even. We're all close. You're the first seed. You clinched it. But throughout the end, it was a close race.
Yes,
and I just feel like with this year, with the momentum of every team that's prospering and sprouting, there's a breaking point. You have a great year, and then, oh, shoot, you have a horrible year. You get last place. And I think that's Coach Elkey's time. I really do. Look at his team. He's got no one that stands out besides David Johnson, who did fantastic last year. I'm not knocking that. But there's only so much weight that David Johnson can carry on any specific team.
Yep.
So I really think that he's going to have the worst draft.
Coach Elkey, he whines and gripes about. They always talk about the scariest teams, and they bring up my team. They bring Lampman's team, Tony's team. Ethan always wonders why his team is not in the list of dominant teams, and he's really got to prove himself this year. He really does. And judging by his draft, he's got a lot of room to make up. But we'll see how it works out. He is the fantasy hawk, probably the best fantasy guy to pick up all the waiver wire players. He's probably the best one in the game.
It's
pretty
scary.
much.
It's scary how quick he can pick up players once they drop, and how fast of notifications, how alert and aware he is to the free agency. He can pick up any player. You be careful, because if you see a player injured, down, and then their backup, you don't know their backup. Ethan already knows. He's already probably picked him up in free agency. It's too late. He lost the battle. The only thing that you can possibly win is the waiver wire countdown, which if he's picked up a lot of players, he'll probably be last on the list of the waiver claims, and you might get an opportunity to pick someone up. But that's the only advantage I see him. He's very resourceful when it comes to the free agency market, and the draft shows that he's going to have to be as resourceful as he's been the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. So he's very dangerous there. Not knocking him. He's pushing trades that are, in his favor, obviously, but
yes, he's been making a lot of trades. Trying to make a trade with me. I respectfully declined it, and making a trade with Tony Gonzalez. So,
with that being said, we're going to conclude our showdown, our meeting here to diagnose the league. We'll probably have another one here next week. Stay tuned and keep up with the league, because you'll never know who's going to be on the market, who's going to be free, what trades have happened, and what coaches have endured the best success this offseason. So with that, I'm Coach Stallman.
I'm Coach Espinoza.
Stay tuned.